Yo, what is up guys, this is Tyranic Swine here, and welcome to another My Viewpoint sort of video. This time I am talking about E3 2017, since now at this point is pretty much almost over. I'm gonna now talk about all the other the conferences that have been going around. And then to start off with, we're gonna start off with EA. Now, EA doesn't really always put on a good show, pretty much, because it's usually the same stuff every year. They always announce their new sports games like FIFA, Madden, whatever the other one was, I can't bloody remember. And so yeah, it seems the only thing that's different this year is that Madden is getting a campaign, but so is every other one of their sports games, so that's not really particularly interesting. A new Need for Speed was announced, not really bothered by that either, and of course the cringy dialogue did not help out either with the conference, because the guy that they got for the Need for Crew payback trailer, Jesse, another YouTuber, I felt very sorry for him, considering this is something he probably didn't really want to do, and considering he's having to talk in front of a large crowd of people. And of course that's going to be very nervous for anyone who's going to do this sort of thing. So yeah, I really felt sorry for that guy when it came to it. And then there is a few interesting things EA did show, which was the co-op game called A Way Out. Now this actually looked pretty interesting, considering that the fact that the only way you can play it is, or cooperatively, is by the old setting, which is the split screen on the couch setting, which I think is actually very interesting, since the way the game goes, or the way it goes by, is the fact that you have to rely on each other. The two people who are playing, you have to rely on each other to escape, and then do whatever you do when you get out of prison. So I thought that looked pretty interesting, so that's something to look forward to. And then of course they finished it off with Star Wars Battlefront 2, pretty much one of the games I'm looking forward to. One of the games I'm looking forward to most this year, considering there's really not much else this year to look forward to. And from what we got was Clone Wars match, a Clone Wars multiplayer match, which I thought is very cool, since I've been waiting forever to play in the Clone Wars again since the first Star Wars Battlefront 2, which was like 12 years ago now since that came out, and man, felt good seeing the Clone Wars again, but still skeptical on what they're going to do, considering what the first Battlefront did. Now, even though EA was pretty meh for a conference, Bethesda was possibly the worst of all the conferences. I'm not gonna lie, Bethesda didn't really have much to offer. Sure, they don't have much in development, they do take their time, but from what they showed, it just didn't really seem to excite me at all. I mean, the Fallout 4 and Doom VR stuff, that just was meh, really. Yeah, not really bothered by that. The Creation Club for the people who do mods, that's pretty interesting, but I'm not really one of those people who really has the time for that sort of thing. So I mean, it's good. I'm guessing it's good for a lot of people who like mods. I'm not denying mods are actually pretty fun to have, so I think this would actually be a pretty cool thing to have, but it's not in my area right now, this sort of thing. They had a Dishonored 2 sort of expansion of sorts, or another side game, or whatever it's going to be. I have no interest in that whatsoever. And another an Evil Within sequel, Evil Within 2. Not really sure why they're making that, since the first Evil Within got very mixed receptions, so it's kind of surprising that they would actually bother trying to make a sequel for this game. And then probably the best thing of the entire conference, and the last thing they showed, was Wolfenstein 2. I mean, I haven't really played the other Wolfenstein games. I mean to one day, but that's the thing. It's if that's the best thing you can offer us, then that's not a very good conference, to be honest. So yeah, it's Bethesda, surprisingly enough, had a very, very dull and not very much to say conference. Very lackluster to Bethesda this year. Now, let's get on to the Xbox/Microsoft conference. Now, surprisingly enough, they actually did in my eyes, okay this year did Xbox, Microsoft, because even though there wasn't any Halo there, or Gears of War, well, obviously Gears of War came out last year, but obviously a lot of us were probably expecting a bit more of the next Halo game, like Halo 6, but we got none of it. But FIFA 3 did say there wasn't going to be any Halo at E3 this year, or well, Halo 6, to be honest. And when people decided going crazy about it, I was just kind of face-bombed, because FIFA 3 did say there wasn't going to be any Halo 6. But they did announce the Xbox, the Scorpio project, which was Xbox One X. Ridiculous name, yes, and I'm not really sure what to think about the Xbox One X right now, to be honest. There's not really much for me to delve into with that. But yeah, at least they could have changed the name at least. Could have called it the Xbox Scorpio, that would have actually sounded pretty cool. But probably the biggest thing that... Probably one of the biggest things is the backwards compatibility of the original Xbox games. Now that is something that is definitely people have been looking forward to. It definitely shows that Microsoft and Xbox are definitely on their game when it comes to this sort of area compared to Sony. There was actually quite a lot of interesting kind of games there, I think. There was the new Metro Exodus revealed, which I know we know there was another Metro game that was sort of announced earlier in the year. But to actually finally see it, it's actually I'm really glad to see there's another Metro game coming, because I really did enjoy the last Metro game. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to that. Another Motorsport, Forza Motorsport. I'm not really bothered by that, and the fact that my friend really is annoyed by the fact that it's being sponsored by Porsche, but I'm not even going to bother getting into that. The new Assassin's Creed was shown. Don't care whatsoever. As you can see, that I haven't really done any Assassin's Creed game reviews. I mean, I'll get to them at some point, but right now I'm not really bothered. Sea of Thieves was shown last year for E3. When Sea of Thieves was shown, I feel like it got a bit of bad reception because of how bad the bloody player's commentary was. At least this time, the trailer or gameplay footage the narration was actually pretty decent and funny for once. We finally get a release date for Cuphead, a game I've been looking forward to a lot. That looks bloody amazing from its old-timey style from like the 1930s cartoon, which looks pretty cool, and I'm really glad it's finally getting a release date. There is also State of Decay 2, another sort of zombie game that's like open world and stuff like that. The only reason I might get that, because I wasn't really interested in it at first, until it showed that you could actually like build your own settlement and stuff like that, and keep like find resources and stuff to keep going. I've been looking forward to a zombie game where you can actually do that, because usually most of the zombie games I've played is where you're just going around and killing zombies and completing missions. But once this is something where you can actually go by your own decisions and what will benefit you, so I thought that might be interesting. There's a new Ori and the Blind Forest sequel, which could be interesting, and may need to play the first one now because of that. More Minecraft stuff. Not really bothered by that, because all this show was like, it's now being, every single like other gaming platform apart from the PlayStation is now being connected. The same servers are now going to be together now. But the person who presented it obviously presented the most cringe of all faces, I have to admit. There's another Crackdown 3. Didn't play the first two, so I'm not bothered about that. There was a new Life is Strange game. Apparently, I'm not even sure if it's a sequel, since it says Before the Storm. So is this like a prequel or something? I'm not really sure. A new Dragon Ball Z fighting game, which could be interesting for those who are interested in Dragon Ball Z. I definitely know someone who would be interested in it. The new Shadow of War game was shown, and I thought that looked pretty interesting. Well, kinda, I don't really know. I need to play the first one again. But I did like the way the orcs talked. It kind of nicely fitted with the way their personalities are, with their like monstrousness. And yeah, I liked how the orcs were, and hopefully it might actually be decent when I play the first one and think that was good. There was a bunch of other stuff too, like there was a lot of indie games that actually looked very interesting. There was like one called An Artful Escape, where you're playing some dude with a guitar. That looked pretty fun. Ashen, that looked pretty interesting. That's probably the indie game that looked very interesting to me, since it had like you're playing two faceless characters. in like very dark underground situations and giant monsters. It looked very interesting. Could be definitely something I might look into. And there was another one. I can't remember its name. It was Deep City Underground or something like that. Deep City Battleground, something like that. It looked very colourful, and you play these 4 characters and you fight against a bunch of spiders. If you could tell me what the name is in the comments down below, I would appreciate that. It looked very interesting. That there was a lot of indie games in the Microsoft Xbox conference that did look very good, and there was a few other games like Code Vein and Black Desert, which are sort to appeal to your more anime fans. I want to say they look good, but I ain't so sure, especially with the Code Vein. I mean, it looked good, but the characters look really out of place for some reason. But yeah, I think that... And then there was, at the end of it, was Anthem, which was BioWare's new game that was announced. I'm not so sure what to think of Anthem, because it looks like a huge amalgamation of games like Titanfall, Destiny, Horizon Zero Dawn, and maybe a bit of Halo, all mixed together, so I'm unsure what to think of Anthem. But for now, until we get more like information on it, I'll just have to hold my breath just to see what they're doing, because from the look of things, if they from the looks of things, it seems they concentrated on this game instead of Mass Effect Andromeda did BioWare. But yeah, Anthem better be good. Now we move on to Sony's conference. Now, Sony used to be the ones who were sort of winning over the previous couple of years when it came to E3. This time Sony was a little bit meh, to be honest. I mean, it wasn't entirely dead, but I mean, it wasn't as exciting compared to some of the other years that they've done. I mean, most of the stuff just seemed like stuff I've already seen. Probably like half of it is stuff I've already seen from like last year or something. Like you have the Uncharted Lost Legacy game, which still yet to play the Uncharted games, but this seems like something that wouldn't be worth my time. A new Horizon Zero Dawn expansion, a new zombies game called Days Gone, but to be honest, that does not seem as interesting as State of Decay 2, sad to say, since it looks like a sort of a World War Z kind of rip-off zombie game. They haven't announced anything to do with backwards compatibility, and of course, one of their new remasters, Shadow of the Colossus, kind of shows that they're not really giving a damn about backwards compatibility. They'd rather make you spend more money on a remaster rather than having you not spend any money whatsoever, so you can play an older version of the game, which is kind of annoying. There was the new Monster Hunter World was announced. That looks interesting. It would be nice to try and capture a T-Rex once in a while in that sort of game. A new Marvel vs. Capcom game was announced. Not particularly bothered, even if it is Marvel. I mean, it is Capcom. Well, to be honest, after Resident Evil 7, I'm not really sure what to think about them at this point, but yeah, and the new COD World War II was shown. Not particularly, like, it did not amaze me whatsoever. There was a lot of VR games announced. They didn't particularly impress me either. I mean, actually no, there was one that did sort of looked interesting, which was called Inpatient or Impatient. That seemed like it could be of some interest, but other than that, I mean, VR is not something I really particularly wanted to get into right now. I mean, it's something new. I would rather wait like another year or two before, so it can get somewhere. The next God of War game, which is not exactly... I originally thought it was going to be open world, since a lot of games seem to be making that decision, but from the way the gameplay looked, it looks more linear than I anticipated. It could be like sort of a linear game, which would be interesting to see, and it could be like a hack and slasher again, just with a lot more, just instead of a bigger journey than all the others. So that might be interesting. And then there's Detroit Become Human, which seems like a game that Telltale should be worrying about, since it actually looks pretty decent with its decision making, but then again, decision making games could be a big bunch of lies, as Telltale seem to be doing these days, since they don't really seem to be as good as they used to be. But I'm holding out on this game, and it might be interesting. Destiny 2 was shown. Don't care whatsoever after the first one. Hell, even if this is an improvement, who knows if I'll buy it or not. And then they finished it with the new Spider-Man game. Now, of course, we're all looking forward for another Spider-Man game after Civil War, but I'm just not sure what to think of it yet. I'll see what happens, but I'm not sure if I will get it or not when I have a PS4, but you never know. But all these games, there's very little here that did impress me, or felt like something to look forward to. And a lot of it was stuff from last year that was just given a bit more. So yeah, probably the best thing there that I saw was, to be honest, there was a few. Maybe either Detroit Become Human or Monster Hunter World. Probably one of those two. I mean, Shadow of the Colossus remastered, but that just basically confirms my annoyance of Sony's lack of interest in backwards compatibility, which is probably something I'll mention one day, but who knows. But yeah, Sony could really have done a better job this year compared to all the others that I've seen. Now, let's move on to Nintendo. There really wasn't much at Nintendo, since I'm not particularly someone who's even gone near a Nintendo game for a long time. But yeah, I mean, there were probably some decent looking games there. I mean, there was not many games, to be honest, but the biggest thing that was definitely announced to me is the new Metroid Prime 4. Now, of course, we're all probably wetting ourselves because of that. I mean, we've been waiting for a Metroid game since, well, a proper one, since, what, like 7 years now? Really glad we're getting another Metroid Prime game at last, to be honest. There was a few other things. A new Yoshi game was announced. Probably it looks like a new Yoshi's Woolly World or something, or it looks a little bit like Little Big Planet, but I'm not entirely sure. A new Kirby game, a new Xenoblade Chronicles, not really sure. Fire Emblem Warriors, and not really sure about those last two, to be honest. Not particularly interested in those kind of games. And then there's Super Mario Odyssey. And I really don't know. It's the fact that Super Mario is now going into the open world aspect, and I have no idea what to think of this. To be honest, I really don't know what to think about with all these Nintendo games, since there's very little there. But since the only thing that really did pique my interest was the new Metroid Prime game, but other than that, Nintendo continues to be the very just meh kind of games it's throwing out right now. I'm not really sure what to think of right now with it, but yeah, hopefully Nintendo will at least prove itself later in the future. But yeah, it's definitely wasn't going to prove itself this year, apart from the Metroid Prime game, but that's really all they could offer, to be honest, for me. Now, moving on to Ubisoft. Now, let's talk about the very start, because honestly I thought I'd suddenly wandered into the Nintendo conference, since Ubisoft and Nintendo are having a joint cooperation project called Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Don't know why, I feel like that's probably a very stupid idea, to be honest, but... And then you have the more obvious kind of games Ubisoft is throwing out there, like Just Dance 2018, The Crew 2, another one of their racing games of sorts, the obvious expansion talk on the new Assassin's Creed game, which I was not really bothered with, Far Cry 5, I mean, I don't really know what to think of about Far Cry after Far Cry 4, and I've still yet to play Primal, which we'll get to at some point, but Far Cry really is taking a really big downhill journey right now for me. It's like after Far Cry 3, it's really gone downhill, and I'm not even sure if this will be able to help it. Surely can't be as bad as Primal, maybe. There was their Steep, their snowboarding type game, whatever it is. Not really particularly interested by that. But there was a few things that did look interesting. Starlink Battle for Atlas, I'm not particularly sure what to think about that. All it did remind me was of No Man's Sky, and we all know how that turned out, so I ain't particularly sure what to think about this one. Any game that looks like it's space, and it looks like there's a lot of worlds, after No Man's Sky, and not particularly trustful of any more. But they did seem like a few other interesting games too, like Skull and Bones. I mean, my friend says it's an Assassin's Creed Black Flag ripoff, but we all know there's been more pirate games since before then, so it'll be interesting to see an actual proper Pirates game for once, with some added elements into it, and see how that goes. And Obviously, there was also another game called Transference, which seems like it could be a cool mind mindfuckery type game, which could be interesting. Who knows? Just by looking at the trailer, I'm unsure what to think of it, but it looks interesting by what it could offer. And then, of course, there is the South Park Fractured But Whole sequel, which is obviously going to be like the previous South Park game, but this time instead of like fantasy and stuff like that, we're going to be going into the superhero aspect. Of course, we're still building upon the whole Civil War aspect. Would have been nice if it did come out last year, because it would have fitted in nicely. Now it feels like it's come to the party a bit too damn late. But yeah, I think hopefully it'll be just as decent and interesting as the first South Park game. And then Ubisoft finished with probably one of the biggest news, or probably the best news of the entire E3 2017, which is Beyond Good and Evil 2. A game we've all been everyone has been looking forward to since, for like 14 years now. It's finally happening. Finally, for those people who have been waiting all this time for another Beyond Good and Evil game. The sad fact is that it is a prequel, so yeah, I don't know if you're going to be pissed off by that or not, but it's quite a bit objective, to be honest. It's not a sequel, but it's a prequel, but it's another Beyond Good and Evil game, so it's a bit of a clash there on what's going to get you going or not. But yeah, hell, at least Ubisoft actually showed some interesting stuff for once. Hell, it's more interesting what Bethesda and EA showed up with. Hell, it might have been a little bit better than what Sony even offered, which even surprises me. But to be honest, overall, I think either Ubisoft or Xbox were the ones who were the best at E3 this year. There was the PC gaming section, but I didn't watch that, so that's not going to be anything. There's not going to be anything on that from me. So yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, other than that, I think Xbox and Ubisoft are technically the winners of this E3, since they actually showed the most interesting stuff. Sony just offered stuff I've already seen, or stuff that just wasn't particularly that interesting. And then the other two, EA and Bethesda, were just meh and boring. So yeah, that is my viewpoint on E3 of 2017. This year has been particularly quite disappointing, to be honest, even compared to last year and the years before that. It makes me feel like E3 2018 could be even worse. Who knows? Because E3 is stooping lower and lower for me. They're getting more and more disappointing. But there were some things there. At least there were some things there that were interesting, and it wasn't a complete mess up. Hell, there were a few surprises there. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Comment down below what you think what you enjoyed about E3 this year, what interested you. Leave a like, subscribe, and I shall see you guys in the next random video.